Sorry, it's been a minute. It's the Rare Hunter. We're back again with Spencer, and this time we're looking at Shadowverse Evolved. Welcome, Spencer.
Y- Yo, thanks for having me again.
Yeah, so what did you do this weekend?
I live in Phoenix and I flew to Chicago to play in a Shadowverse Evolved tournament with 20 of my friendliest people. I actually knew none of them, but we won. We ended up winning with Forest, which I think was the first win for Forestcraft, so that's exciting.
What is the tournament actually? Is it called a regional?
Yeah, it's a regional qualifier. Lets you compete at Worlds if you get top three.
Top three gets you at Worlds. Okay, and
Yeah.
is there any significance to winning first place?
Yeah, so second and third get to go to Worlds, but they have to pay their own way. First place gets a free trip, pay for your travel,
That's
your
pretty
plane,
awesome.
your hotel.
Okay,
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
so you played Forest. From what I know, um, all my friends say that Forest is trash. I personally play Rune, and I know
Yeah.
Dragon is the most popular. So tell me why you decided to play Forest.
So I was on Rune. It's a super fun deck. That's what I got my qualifier for to play in the regional with. I played the burn deck. Thought it was really strong, but it had a really iffy dragon matchup, and I was assuming that the meta was super dragon heavy, just looking at other tournaments, looking at what people said was the best. So I played this deck in order to beat dragon. And coincidentally, also in learning how to play this deck, just realized it had a very good matchup into every deck. So
Okay, yeah, sure. So let's
yeah.
I guess let's get to the deck. You played perfect 40 cards. Just
Mhm.
for most maximum consistency, I guess. No surprise. So should we just go through each card?
Yeah.
Did
We
you
can talk
have
about the first one, Bell Ringer.
did you have this leader?
I did have this leader. I did,
You
yeah.
did have the leader? Okay, okay.
I showed it off, yeah.
Do you
I had to
use the
too.
app?
I don't,
Oh,
but
okay.
I was
Okay.
actually one of the only people there who didn't. I used at the beginning Dawn cards from One Piece to keep
Wow.
track of my mana, and in top 8 they wouldn't let me do that, and I just took the backup tokens and just would grab one every turn and turn it
Uh,
sideways. It's the
okay.
magic player in me, I guess.
All right, all right. Starting off with Bellringer Angel.
All right, so as you can see, this is a one of. It kind of pained me to put a one of in my deck. This card was actually like 50 other cards. Like literally every card that exists in this game was like slotted in this one of slot, and I was trying different things. It actually started off as Bellringer and ended as Bellringer. I ended up choosing Bellringer over everything else just because it's a one mana that says draw card. So I was I wanted this deck just to be less cards, right? So I was like, hey, you know what, whatever. This just replaces itself, and also can do really cool things when you play it on curve versus really aggressive decks. Like Dragon, for example, they have a 6 mana play where they just smack you down, and I can use 1 mana to disrupt their whole 6 mana play, where they have to maybe play it a turn later.
I think it's
So
pretty
the
interesting
card,
that you're not playing the evolve form of her either.
yeah, there is like two opportunities where I was like, man, I really wish it was in there. But I mean, we could talk about the evolve deck now, I guess, a little bit.
Okay.
I the numbers are really important, like, especially for the last three cards, in that their base forms all suck. So the Roach, the Rose Gardener, and I don't even know the last one's name.
This one is Elven
The
Princess Mage.
Princess Mage. Yeah, all their base forms suck. Like if you don't have the evolve card, like you shouldn't be playing the base card. Um, so it's really important that you have exact copies for your base to evolve forms there.
Okay. So
Um,
those are your six. Those takes up six of your slots, and then you have a
uh-huh.
one of Archer.
Uh One of Archer, the base form of Archer is very strong. You almost never need to evolve Archer actually, because the
Hmm.
base form does the exact same thing except it only hits one follower, which is usually enough. But obviously, sometimes against like really aggressive decks, you do want to evolve the Archer. So you just needed one,
Okay. And then you're maxing out
and
on Ancient Elf.
yes, that's the best card. So you had to play three. It did come up actually in two of my matches where I brought out all three. So very glad I had three of them.
So you just basically didn't have room for Bellringer Angel. basically.
There is no room.
Okay.
Yeah, especially since it was just the splash one of I wasn't planning on evolving it.
It's just your novice engineer.
Yep, it is Novice Engineer. That's
Novice
a nice
engineer.
reference.
Okay.
All
Yeah.
right, Elf Child May. This card is awesome. Yeah, you should probably. I don't know. I was considering like only playing two, but I'm really glad I played three. It's just one of your best bounce targets because when it's returned from your field to the hand, you also get to ping something for a damage.
Mhm.
Um, this card is actually very skill testing, I'd say, because knowing when you need to play this card on turn one and knowing when to leave it on field and not bounce it is pretty important, and it really is matchup dependent. But
So for people who haven't played Forestcraft, what is the point of bouncing your cards? Like, what is the overall strategy that you're trying to accomplish with this deck?
well, you look at Nature's Guidance, which is like the fourth card on this list, and it's just a lot of card value, right? Select a card in your field, return it to your hand, and draw a card. So when you get to bounce May to your hand, you get to draw a card from Guidance and ping something for one. And these are both 1 mana. So for 3 mana, you can summon the May, return the May to your hand, and then summon the May again. And you're dealing 4 total damage and drawing a card, which kills pretty much anything on turn two, right? Or turn three. So
Mhm. So it's kind of like I don't know what's a good comparison. It just sounds like you're just like reusing ETB effects, like flickering almost, but picking it back up.
hmm and Ancient Elf does the same thing. It's the sixth card. Um, it has ETB come on the field, just return something to your hand, and it gets bigger. And the evolve form has the exact same effect. So you actually get 2 returns with this one card. So May becomes like a lot of value, which is another reason why like leaving it on the field and letting it die to removal can just lose you the game because you might have just lost like all these pings that you could have done for the rest of the game.
Okay. So May is a really solid board control for you then.
hmm
Okay.
Fairy Circle just puts 3 fairies into your EX area. I would say I never like opened this card and said I needed to save it. I would just slam it on turn one and put the 3 fairies in, and then my turn two is usually just summon 2 fairies. Pretty basic. Um,
Is that just like a tempo
it's
play
really
just to get 2/1/1s out?
Yeah, this deck really wants to do 5 damage, which because of the combo, which we'll talk about at the end, I'm sure.
Hmm.
So just applying early game units to your board
Okay.
and just hitting them for one is pretty strong. And your opponent wasting cards to remove them actually happens a lot. So it's just a lot of value, right? One card that gets 3/1/1s.
Hmm. Nature's Guidance
It also
scan.
has the
Go ahead.
yeah, Nature's Guidance, yeah. Oh yeah, it also has like the late game usage where like you didn't draw your Aria, the one that summons 5 fairies, and then you can make 3 fairies with this and still Rose Queen and create 9 damage.
All right. All right. We can get to that
Yeah.
afterwards. All right. Next card,
Cool.
Harvest Festival.
Nice. The best turn one in the entire deck is Harvest Festival. Um how often did I use its activated ability? I don't know. Like, let's say I drew into all three, like maybe I'd use it once, but I tend not to use this cards for its activated ability. Um, even though, like, even if you have like extra mana and you like are really tempted to draw cards, it is
Mhm.
just so powerful to leave this on the field because as soon as you draw that Ancient Elf, like it becomes draw 2 cards because when it leaves the field, even getting bounced back to your hand, you still get to draw the card.
Mhm.
So don't be tempted, guys, to remove it to draw that card. I would try to keep it around as long as possible to get the max value with all your bounce effects.
Okay. Just a, I would say, I guess, like a combo enabler or like an enabler for the deck.
Yeah, it just lets you go through your deck as fast as possible to find the pieces. And Ancient Elf is just the MVP. I would also say this card's very skill testing, knowing when to play it. In the semifinals, I played it on turn two, which you don't always do because sometimes you want to evolve it, which costs a mana to make it a 5/5. But I knew that I needed the 3/3 body,
Mm.
um,
Okay.
and that ended up winning me the game. So I'm really glad that I did that play. Whereas like sometimes you need it to be a 5/5, like against Rune.
Yeah.
Archer. Okay, so this card is really great. A lot of lists play three. I found it to be like pretty bad against really tall decks like Dragon, and I built this deck to beat Dragon, so I ended up cutting one. But obviously, this card's like nuts versus any aggressive deck, right? It's a big butt. It's a 1/4, so it's really hard to kill. Really sticky. Usually never swing with it, so they can't attack it back, and it just lets you kill all their stuff.
Would you say that if you were playing into like a more open meta, like this could perhaps be like you could perhaps play a third one over Bellringer Angel or
Maybe. I ended up really appreciating that Bellringer costs 1.
Mhm.
If you'll notice, my deck has a lot of 2-ofs, which, I'm not really a fan of, but it was mostly to stay open into most of the meta. Because there's cards that are very good in some matchups and very bad in others. So I ended up just playing almost 2s of every single forest card.
That is
And
usually not what we like to do. Hmm.
I
That's
know, but it
very
it because this deck draws so much, you do see, like, one of each, and then you have like these options every single game. Like, which one am I going to play?
That is very
Uh,
true. I think earlier you were mentioning that this reminded you of like Rogue, Miracle Rogue from Hearthstone.
Miracle Rogue,
And I'm
yeah.
I'm
So just
starting to
having like
see it.
all these options, yeah, having all these options is very important.
Oh man.
Roach, yeah, this is a lot of people's favorite card. I never played the app, but a lot of people like the Roach.
Yeah,
Um,
the
you know,
Roach was great back then in the original game. I played a
uh,
lot of it.
okay, yeah, no, this card won me a lot of games actually. I'm glad I didn't play 3 because when you have 2 of this card in your hand and a bunch of other like combo stuff of bouncing, you're like, okay, this is useless, right? But this card just sometimes wins the game. Like, you have 8
It's
mana and you play 7 one, or 6 1 mana spells, and they just end on a Roach. Like, swinging for 8 into their face is very strong. Its evolve form also lets you 2 for 1 because you can evolve and deal damage. And because evolve guys keep their base guy's effect, this card still has rush, so you can still swing it into a tapped guy. So you
oh,
can 2 for 1
interesting.
effectively with the Roach, which is very good early gameplay.
Do you use that ability to two for one more often than like swinging for like a late gameplay, swinging into face?
Yeah, and it's not always late game because, like I said, this deck wants to do 5 damage. So, in like the instance where I summoned like 2/1/1s, like my
Mhm.
fairies, and got them for 2, maybe they killed them, and then they used all their mana. On my next turn, I could play 2 mana spells and then hit them for 3. And they'll be at 15. And now that they're at 15, they just died in my late game. And then all I have to do is survive, and I can like change the entire style of my game,
Hmm.
where I'm just stalling and waiting for a combo. Because I was able to like sneak that 3 damage in with the Roach.
This
But
is this is this is basically Edwin Van Cleef.
yes, yeah,
It's
it pretty much is. Like, when do we play this card is like pretty crucial to the deck.
it's pretty funny because I think in the original game, there were no like instant speed interaction, so Roach was really powerful. Whereas like now, I know there's a lot of
Yeah,
like pings that can just kill off the you know
there are a lot of ping ones to your like
yeah.
full board or just deal 2. So yeah, it's you really want them to be tapped out when you're roaching.
Oh, okay.
Um,
I see.
yeah.
All right.
All right, Elven Princess Mage.
Oh.
This card I would say is
Well,
like
you
if we're
said
looking at
you said
set
this
2,
sucks, so let's look at this one.
it does, yeah. So it does nothing. The best part about this card is that it evolves for 1 and then swings for 4. Uh, making 2 wisps is cool because the wisps are actually 0 mana 1/1s,
Mhm.
which lets you play a lot of cards in one turn for your combo cards. Um, but like this card is like very low pressure. A lot of the times I would just play it and just have a huge body and just hope they can't remove it and hit for 4 next turn. But like the reason I have it is because we play the Lion Fairy Beast. It's the 5 mana card
This one?
next to Execution, not the doggy.
Oh, I see it. I see it.
Yeah, yeah. So we play Fairy Beast, and I wanted to create more pixies in my EX area. Um,
Hmm.
this card was really great. I know a lot of lists don't play it, but every turn, gaining 3 life and drawing a card is kind of nuts. If your opponent doesn't remove it right away, the game is like basically over. Like, not many decks can recover from heal 6.
Is this like a control style then? Like if you're playing Fairy Beast?
It was originally in the deck to help against the rune matchup. Putting down a 5/5 is pretty good.
Hmm.
Um, I mean, their breakpoint is 5, so killing it's not the hardest. But if they can't kill it, you win the game. And if you're able to draw into both of them, healing 6 against the burn deck sometimes is too much for them to kill you anymore.
Hmm.
Um,
So so then the princess mage is
mhm.
basically just
Food
value.
for the lion.
Okay. And it's just a the 4/4 body as well.
Yeah, and
Did
also
the
Rose Queen can change the wisps as well into the burst spell.
Yeah.
So you get some other value as from that as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
Not a key role player by any means.
Now, this one was, and this was my dragon hedge. That's why we're playing 3. I looked at a lot of lists beforehand, and I saw like 0 to 1 of this card.
Mhm.
And I'm telling you guys, this is like one of the best cards in the deck. Maybe it looks like not a lot, but it does so much. It
Okay.
having ward is very relevant because we can talk again about the Rose Queen play. Like on 8 mana, you play Rose Queen, you activate her, so you gain 5 mana back. Um, right? And then Thorn Burst costs 2 mana, so you spend 2 of your 5 to deal 3 to their face and draw a card. And then you have 3 mana left to play the card in question, Noble Fairy, and then you get to destroy something on their field. So for 8 mana, you summoned a 7/7, created probably lethal, and then killed their biggest or most threatening thing and turned it into a 1/1, which is like just a disgusting line. It was so disgusting that I was like, wow, I like always want to see this card when I combo.
Mhm.
So it also won me 2 games when I wanted to be aggressive. I just killed their follower with ward, turned it into a fairy, and it just swung for a game.
Okay.
So it has a lot of different cases, and again, it comes with ward, so it's feels good.
Okay. It's
Yeah.
pretty flexible across most matchups then, or
hmm
and then also the main application for your dragon matchup.
Yeah, I would say it's like the worst card versus rune,
Mhm.
but whatever, a 3 mana 3/3, just tempo it out, and if they don't kill it, 3 damage is 3 damage. So.
Mhm.
All right, Rose Gardener.
Okay, well.
I really like this card. Again, it does nothing. Like you look at its base form, it literally does nothing. This card is sometimes so tilting to play against. I don't know if anyone plays Battle Spirits here. It's like Valkyrie Mist. Just the idea of just bouncing something back is just so broken, especially when you go second, which we haven't talked about, but I always choose second if I can.
Okay.
The extra card and the Evo points are all great in this deck because almost everything evolves for 1 mana.
Do
So
do you find that other decks or other players choose to go first more in this game, or
yeah, let's see. I think I only won 1 dice roll the
Mhm.
entire tournament, and everyone let me go second besides 2 players, and they were both in top 8. And one of them was the Abyss player, and one was in the finals. And Rune wants to go second as well, but
Mhm.
a lot of people just let me go first, and I was like, thanks. I
Oh,
mean,
you
let me
mean
go second.
you second? Yeah, okay.
Yeah, and I was like, thank you. This is what I wanted.
Awesome.
But yeah, Rose Garner's great. Just bounces something, and then
That's hilarious.
uh, combo 3 as well. You just draw a card for no reason. So like later in the game, you just get to draw as well. Like how stupid. But again, the base form does absolutely nothing. So a 3 of is just too many if you want to play the other gun. Okami. All
Okay.
right. What the dog doing, bro? If there's a dog in the game, you got to play it. It's a proven
Okay.
card game fact.
Aren't
Okay.
Okamis like foxes? Whatever.
Okay, sure. It's a fox. Yeah. Um, this thing gets huge. So this card was a late addition.
Mhm.
I found that the rune matchup was very close if they're playing the burn deck. And I also found that if you summon Okami and they don't have an execution or what's it called? I don't remember. It's like the same thing, 4 mana. It's
Kills
a
you.
rune execution. If they
Mhm.
don't have it, you instantly win the game. I played this in the finals. He did not have execution. He just like tempoed out a Merlin. And then I proceeded to summon 3 things, kill his board, and hit him for 8, putting him to 12. and
Wow.
then I killed him at 12 later in the game. So no, this thing just gets so big
Hmm.
that you just win. This is one of the cards that I actually thought a lot about playing 3.
Really?
Yeah.
It
Um,
seems kind
I
of
was concerned.
innocuous.
Yeah, it's just so big. Like, especially decks that like don't really run execution. Like this thing is just so huge. You just like kill someone in 2 turns.
Hmm. All right,
So
another one execution.
yeah, another one of this one of I really like. It was at 2, and one time I had 2 in my hand, and I said never again.
Oh, fair enough.
So we but the one of actually feels really nice. It's just like an overall powerful card. So one
And
execution
you
is
also said that like you dig through the deck a lot, so I can see just
you
having
dig through the
one.
deck a lot, and you never want 2, but you're like never upset that you have 1 in your hand.
Hmm.
Yeah. We're on to Robin Hood.
We're on to
Yeah,
Robin
so
Hood.
the 2-2 split was between Fairy Beast and Robin Hood. Robin Hood is really good at dealing with the board, while Fairy Beast is like, you don't have a board, so I'm gonna like value off you. So they do 2 completely different things, which again is why I have the 2-2 split. I really like this card. Sucks versus Rune, but really good against everything else, and just good against Dragon as well. Uh, on 6 mana, you can deal 8, which kills most of their team.
Hmm. And I guess we're here now.
Yes, we've
Finally,
made it.
we finally made it to the end. Well, near
Fine.
close to the end. But the last card that we
Close to the
didn't
end. Yeah,
go
we can talk
over.
about some of my matchups at the end. Yeah. So Arya, she's really cool. I think a lot of people don't notice that it says other pixie followers. There's other pixies in this deck other than just fairy tokens.
Hmm.
So she gives other cards in your deck rush, including herself. Um, so like you can play one on turn 6, and on turn 7 you can play another one, and that 5/5 will now have rush.
I was like, it says other. Okay, I see what you mean.
Yeah, it says other. Yeah, so not sure if people are aware. Like maybe just people think about the fairies, but I did do that once or twice in the tournament, which was nice.
Hmm.
Some key notes for you players out there is be careful not to board lock yourself. It's not that crucial that you're summoning every single 1/1 to your board. Make sure you leave a space or 2 open, especially if you're planning on rose queening the next turn. You don't want to board lock yourself.
Has anyone ever just like let you lock yourself and did they
Um,
win? Like you still have dudes on the board.
in testing, I did it a lot. I would lock my opponent and win because of that.
Hmm.
It's really big with Sea Queen Otahime, which is a sword card.
Hmm.
It's not that big of a body, and it summons a bunch of 1/2s to your board.
Yeah.
And people are like tempted to like clear them, but you could just let them sit, take like 8 damage, and just like make your board way bigger. You know what I mean? Like
Oh, I see what you mean.
if you already had a dude, you can like summon another 5/5, maybe Fairy Beast, heal 3 life, and then just pass. Don't even kill their board. Let them hit you for 8, and then on the following turn, like kill all their stuff, and then hit them for 10 instead of hitting them for 5. Like because you'll get in a bunch more damage, and usually just because of how creature heavy all these decks are, they like literally just skip their turn besides their
Right,
attack.
right. Okay.
Like you just prevented them from playing a single card, which is disgusting.
Okay. So what is the combo here then?
So then we play Rose Queen, right?
Hmm.
And we turn all those fairies that we have in our EX area into Thornburst tokens. And Thornburst tokens, as you can see on the bottom of the card, are 2 mana, and you can select anything and deal 3 damage and draw a card.
Okay.
So if you have 5 fairies, you create 15 damage, which is why it's really important to try to deal 5 damage at some point before turn 8, which
Gotcha.
sometimes can be harder than it looks, but was pretty easy this weekend. So
Okay. So let's kind of go over your matchups then. How
all
many how
right.
many rounds were there?
So there were 5 rounds, and then obviously the 3 rounds in top 8. My only loss was round 1. I drew just an absolutely horrid hand against a control sword deck. Um, I drew like all of my mid game.
Hmm.
And so I mulliganed and then saw the other half of my mid game cards. So I couldn't play anything till turn 4. And then on top of that, I never drew Rose Queen, and I drew all 3 Arya. So I couldn't ever create damage
Hmm.
to finish the game. So I ended up losing that one. And I think that player went to top 4. I think he
Okay.
came in 4th.
Okay.
And
Oh,
then
that's unlucky.
I just destroyed the rest of my matchups. I'm gonna be honest. There were some ones that I was worried with Abyss, but I don't think they were too close. I played against a burn rune deck. Just trying to burn me. I won the game at 26 life, so that was not a close one.
Okay. Okay.
And then we played against Dirt Rune after that. I just played everything on curve. Had a fairly easy time. I think I was at like 15. Almost all my games I was at 15 or higher. Then we played against Aggro Abyss, which was, maybe the scary matchup because I thought he was playing some late game stuff, but he
Hmm.
was actually only playing small dudes. So I was at 7 at the end of the game, and I was like worried, but I don't think he like ever could do 7 with the top deck. And he was
Right.
top decking for like 4 turns, and I was like worried for no reason.
Oh, okay.
I was like, he's gonna do something and kill
Okay.
me, but
Okay.
never happened. And then in round 5, we played against Forest, the mirror match. And when we first sat down, the guy's like, I'm gonna try something new this game. And I don't really know what he was trying, but it was like 19-0,
Oh
and
no.
I was up like 10 cards in card advantage.
Oh
I'm sure the
no.
dude is a good player because he was 4-0, and I got up paired in the last round.
Oh wow.
So there ended up being no undefeateds after Swiss, which is pretty funny.
That's okay. Okay. So what seed did you end up going into
I
top 8?
ended up in 3rd, I think.
Okay.
Um,
Is there modified
and
play
then
draw?
no, so the ranking doesn't really matter unless you're assuming that like, first place is just the best player and 8th place is the worst player that's
Right.
left.
Right.
Otherwise, no, you have the dice roll and everything.
Okay.
Um,
So how was your top
and
8?
top 8, I played against another aggro abyss. His list seemed different. Um, and that matchup was scary. It was a cool matchup for me. I did a lot of thinking. We had a little extra time in top 8, and I took it. Um, I realized at some point in that game that just my hand was so bad that I needed to actually kill him. I needed to be the aggro player,
Mhm.
and we ended up killing him on turn 6, which was like crazy. I just took a turn. I was like, you know what? Like, I don't think I'm like being able to deal with your board. So I just started hitting his face and
Mhm.
ignored his board, and he was like, "Uh oh," and he was like 2 damage off from killing me, so he had to try to deal with my
Uh,
board instead. And we won as soon as that happened, and we ended up killing him. That was probably like maybe my overall closest game
mhm.
because I think if I made like just a different decision early on, I would have lost for sure. So, but that was a fun one. And then I played against Dirt Rune again,
Was it the same
and
person?
oh man, it was a different person.
Okay.
And this guy was really nice, and it was funny because the judge was watching our game the whole time. And every single top deck I had was like the exact perfect card I needed just to destroy. Like this was my most like unfair
Uh,
match. It lasted like 5 minutes. I tempoed out Ancient Elf on turn 2, which you don't always do against Rune because they can kill it pretty easy.
mhm.
And I was like, I just prayed he couldn't kill it. And then he summoned a 3/2 and passed. And I was like, oh, this is perfect. And then I was like, oh, I just need a top deck Ancient May. I literally say it out loud. Draw, it's an Ancient May. The judge laughs. Some head judge. No, it's and then we play the May. We deal
Uh,
a damage. We evolve our Ancient Elf, return the May, kill his 3/2, hit him for 5. And he just didn't have an answer to my 5/5 next turn. And you could just imagine how the rest of the game goes. It was just not good. I was just hitting him for 5/5/5. It was a very fast game. I played Rose Gardener on curve and just bounced his only taunt guy. Um, I literally drew perfect. I couldn't have asked for better cards. So that was my
so
one high roll matchup for sure.
a quick side note. Does the two losers of top 4 play each other for third?
They do. They
Oh,
do. And
okay.
I
So
think
he won, you're saying.
yes, and that guy came in 3rd. He played the other dirt rune. So there was a dirt rune
Oh,
mirror and the
interesting.
for the 3rd placed. And the guy that I beat, I guess I played both of them, but the guy that I beat took it.
Okay.
Or maybe it was dirt rune versus sword. I don't know. But either way, the dirt room player ended up making third place.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then how was your finals match?
Good. It was cool because the guy in the finals had like a cool story. He lost his first 2 rounds and then won the next three. He
Wow.
snuck into eighth place,
Wow.
and then he beat the other forest player. And then I'm not sure who he beat next. I think he beat the sword player. Um,
Wow, that's some
and then
sick
yeah, and
bracket
then he
manipulation.
and then he played me. Yeah, good for him. And then I could tell that he was pretty confident with his deck. Uh, my hand was kind of whatever. Had a tempo out a noble fairy on 3 mana, which is like again like not really the card's purpose, but you have to do it versus rune.
Mhm,
Because against rune is definitely the one matchup. It's like, can I do 5 damage to you and draw combo?
mhm.
You win every game. You'll beat them before they beat you if you can do the 5 damage. Uh,
So I know earlier you were talking about you built this deck for dragons and Haven. Do you still feel
mhm.
like it was like a good deck choice after like the matchups that you played?
Yeah, I put in quite a few hours into this deck, maybe like 20-ish, maybe like 30. Like play testing with other people. I did some like solo hands myself because, like I said, I was on Rune, and the more I played it, the stronger the deck got. Like it's definitely a deck that you get rewarded for playing a lot. And I would say, yeah, this is probably because I have played most of the decks of the format. This is probably just the best deck. I think it has a solid matchup spread into everything.
Mhm.
I think its closest matchup is probably the Burn Rune deck. I think if you're an experienced player, that even turns into maybe like a 60-40.
Okay, so you would have played it even if like Dragon and Haven were at the top, because I know like
Yeah.
we like to build decks that kind of target smaller metagames. This one
hmm
seems like you kind of built your deck for like, the known meta, but you didn't really feel like you played against a lot of what you were preparing against.
No, Chicago is very abnormal from every other tournament. There were like 5 Forest players there, where
Oh
Forest is
wow.
usually like 0 to 1.
Yeah. I mean again,
The
like
list I
I definitely feel
yeah
like from playing it just felt like Forest was the weaker class so far.
yeah the builds of Forest I saw were pretty different. Some people played the amulet, the one that like buffs all your 1/1s. There's also this 2 mana 2/3 that buffs all your 1/1s. A lot of people are playing like those cards, and where I was not really trying to buff my 1/1s, but use them as more of a way to cast my
Mhm.
combo cards, or get more value off Roach, or turn them into damage at the end of the game. I didn't really view them as like, oh, I can turn these 1/1s into 3/3s. So I had a little bit different mentality when playing the deck.
Do you feel like some of the games that you played at this tournament, you won because like people weren't really experienced playing against Forest or playing against your build?
Whenever someone looks at my card and reads it, I'm pretty happy, and I think that happened almost every game.
Okay.
Especially when I played Fairy Beast, they're like, "What is that?" And I was like, "Excellent." Reading my cards.
Okay.
Um, so yeah, I would say people are probably a little bit more inexperienced versus this deck. I also want to say that uh, there were 2 dragon players there, and I think one of them just had a terrible time. Um, and I think people were playing Forest and this like control sword deck in
Mhm.
order to beat Dragon. And I think that Dragon player just ran into them and just like had a literally awful
That
tournament experience, thinking he was bringing the best deck.
that's so interesting. That's kind of why I hate bringing like what people perceive as the best deck normally because I don't want to
Yeah,
be running into something that I just never tested against and then just have like horrendous matchups.
yeah. The
Um,
control sword deck was really interesting.
was that
It was
something
my
that you've
one
tested?
loss, but I tested against like a control E sword deck, but this one was like the most greedy thing I've ever seen.
Mhm.
But I would still think that Forest is pretty favored into it. I drew horrendous, and I thought that I had a chance against it if I drew Rose Queen in like the last 5 turns in our like 20 million turn game.
Would you change anything about the deck moving forward?
The cool thing about this deck is like all the twos of you can make 3/1 choices,
Mhm.
or just cut the cards that are 2 and play 3s of the things you think are really important. Like, if you expect everyone there to be playing Rune, like, you wanna play 3 Okami 100% of the time. If you expect more dragon players, maybe you can cut 1 noble fairy. I mean, less dragon players, you can cut, like, 1 noble fairy.
Mhm.
If you expect no one to be playing Rune, then you don't play Fairy Beast probably anymore, and you play 3 Robin Hood. Um, and you probably up your archer count as well. So there's things that you can do. I was unsure. Like I said, I built the deck to beat Dragon, but I heard the Chicago meta was crazy. So so I ended up doing a lot of twos of.
I see. And I guess lastly, oh god, what was that last question I had? Uh, hopefully I can just think of it.
Could be anything.
Could be anything. Damn.
um but yeah, it was I think I remember your question.
Yeah.
I'm reading it. I have a
You're reading
psychic
it, right?
feel.
Okay. Okay.
Your
Okay.
psychic feel. So I do want to mention that from the qualifier, we can play in any regional, and I decided to play in the set 1 regional on purpose because I really didn't want to learn other cards, especially when set 2 and 3 in Japan are were like heavily played and had tournament support. Where set 1, the game was new and didn't have any big tournaments, so you could say the other metas were solved, and then this one wasn't. So I thought I was a little bit more creative, and I knew Forest was at the time underrepresented. So I was like, let's see if I can find a cool build for the Forest deck.
Do you think that this, I mean, I guess you didn't look at the new cards yet, but I was gonna say if this deck can compete with set two dragons and such, but
I have no idea. I will say that Rose Queen is literally disgusting.
Mhm.
So unless the game speeds up like incredibly fast and Forest has nothing to keep up with that, I would say this deck should still see play. And you can find these weak cards we mentioned, like the Princess Mage,
Mhm.
right? And maybe the Fairy Beast, and maybe the one of Execution, right? The one of
Yeah.
Bellringer. And you could put in like 8 new cards from set 2 and still have a very good show. So
Okay. So what are your future plans for Shadowverse now? Like, are you just looking forward to Worlds?
I think so. It's kind of weird, right? There's like literally, you'd only play for fun. I play like 4 or 5 card games, so I might just be playing other card games for fun. And I'll probably
Okay.
pick up the game up like 3 weeks before Worlds and just play it a lot.
Oh, okay. Okay. Sounds good. Sounds good.
Yeah.
I think that's probably it for the deck tech. Thank you everyone for watching. Like and subscribe, I guess, if you guys want to do that. I make videos once a year or something at this point.
Once when a friend wins.
Yeah, once when Spencer wins, once when Austin wins, and maybe I'll win one day.
Yes,
Um,
and I'll be interviewing you.
yes, fantastic.
The
That'd be
the
great.
reverse. Yeah.
Uh, what was the last thing? That's going to be. Oh, the deck link will be in the description. If you guys
Yeah.
want that. And that'll be it. Thanks for watching.
Thanks for watching, guys.